Hey everyone, my name is Raleigh Carter, and I started doing gymnastics when I was about 13 and a half years old. Is when I went into a gym and I'm like, I want to learn how to do a backflip. And my instructor starts teaching me. I know nothing about gymnastics. I had a backyard trampoline I played on. I was really good at front flipping, super scared of back flipping, and I wanted to go learn. 6 months into the process, my instructor doesn't show up to work, just doesn't call in, doesn't show up. And the gym owner's like, hey, do you want to learn how to teach gymnastics? And so at 14-ish, I'm now learning how to teach gymnastics, and I'm helping with the beginner level classes and the intermediate level classes. And basically I turned into just the only person available in this really small gym in a very small town where gymnastics shouldn't even exist essentially. And it took me 6 years to teach myself how to do a backflip. I took a wedge, right, and I practiced standing at the low side of the wedge and jumping myself into like a backwards roll up the wedge, essentially, kind of crunching and smashing myself into the wedge and suitcasing until I could like roll up on it. I tried everything, right? I came up with every single idea because I had no one to spot me. And so only as I got older, I got bigger and I was still more afraid. And so I had nobody to spot me. It literally took me 6 years from 14 to, where does that put me at now? 22. So around 22 is when I finally learned how to backflip for the first time and got it. And so for me, understanding the process of being determined and working for something for a long period of time, and also having that feeling of kind of abandonment, like you have this person who's showing up and working for you and then they don't anymore, and then now it's up to you to figure it out. You know, that really stuck with me in this coaching journey, to say, okay, I don't want someone to have this experience that I had. I don't want someone to take 6 years to learn how to do a skill. And so while at 14 I had no idea that this is where my life was going to go, I did at one point remember watching the Olympics and watching gymnastics around the age of 12, thinking, you know, I'm never going to be there, be an Olympian or be in the Olympics as an athlete, but maybe someday I could coach. And so from a very early age, I had this desire to be a part of this process. But looking back on that, I mean, you can see how much ego is really built onto that story and how much naivety is, right? Because you don't just select somebody and say, hey, you're going to the Olympics with me, let's go. It's not how it really pans out. So yes, I had this little seed, this spark that kind of kept me driving in a direction with the wrong intention and the wrong motive. But over time, all that stuff kind of worked itself out, right? Over time, I hit the failures, I missed my expectations, I hit all those roadblocks, realized that there's a lot of things I don't have control over and that I have to let go. Learning to work with different gym owners in different gymnastics training settings, and the type of equipment you have determines a lot of where you're going to go. For instance, you do need all the events to actually compete, and so if you're working in a gym that doesn't have all the events, you're not really going to get there either. So there are things that can limit you on your goals and outcomes. And so this really was the defining starting point of my entire coaching journey. I did try other jobs. I did try doing other things in life, whether it's working at a glass company, installing windows, or working at a cemetery in Philadelphia, or doing construction, working at restaurants, a bookstore. I mean, essentially everything brought me back into like, I hate these jobs and I just want to go back to gymnastics and live this impactful life, and being able to be a part of someone else's journey and helping them get to where they want to go faster than I was able to. And so that's really the driving force. And only probably until last week, really, from where I'm making this video, like last week I was thinking about this, of like, why do I like gymnastics so much? Like, what really drives me? Because now I'm a gym owner, and I've trained employees, and I've got the competitive side, I got the employee training side, I've done consulting work, I've done different things, right? And I'm like, what is keeping me? Because I'm not a gymnastics person. I didn't grow up as a gymnast. I don't have the same culture, and I've seen it. I've seen kids who are, I've trained them, right? I've raised them up through the gymnastics culture, and they have gymnastics, and I still kind of internally feel like a little bit of an outsider because I don't have that childhood experience. And so I'm trying to think about like, well, what's really making me stick to the sport? Like, why do I want to show up? And I think the core value that makes me show up every single day excited to help others and really be a part of their process is I have a huge desire to bring hope to those who are at plateau or who are struggling. I want to bring hope to say, look, like, you're not getting that skill today, but that's okay. Like, here's some things you can improve on, and we can get some micro wins along the way. And let me, help you change perspective, so that you can see what your potential is going to be and where it can take you. And we don't have to get there today, but we can pivot and shift so that we might get there in a couple weeks, and let's hit some micro targets, some daily targets and some weekly targets, and let's start building confidence and self-esteem. And let's see where that momentum builds and where it carries you. And so helping others, have hope for the process so that they don't burn out, they don't give up, they don't feel defeated. I felt very defeated when I didn't have an instructor show up one day. I'm like, how am I going to learn this backflip? Like, no one can spot me. I'm too big. There's no coaches there that are big enough to spot me, and I'm never going to learn a backflip. And so, I kind of just gave up on my journey of learning to backflip. And so that's why it took me so long, because you'd kind of, okay, I'm going to try, and then like nothing would happen because I don't have the equipment or the environment to be successful. So then you just kind of go, well, I guess I'll never learn how to backflip. And then all of a sudden you're hanging around your friends and somebody can backflip and you're like, man, I want to learn that so bad. And then you go back at it. And so for me, these videos, the whole YouTube channel that I'm doing, the consulting work that I'm doing, the owning the gyms, the coaching competitive gymnastics, I think you could really tie it into the fact that I want to help bring hope to those that are on their competitive or their skill journey, their gymnastics journey, help bring hope to them to say, look, it's not as complex as you think it is. It's not as mystical. It's not as unknown. It's not as scary. There's so much to understand and filter down into a very simple way of doing things so that you can be successful on a day-to-day process, that you don't have to just beat your head against the wall and be like, I hope I get this, but I don't have any clue when it's going to happen. It's like that timeline is so hardwired in me that we need a timeline. And so my timeline for learning the backflip was 6 years. I don't want anyone to have a 6-year timeline for learning a skill. And so it's all about figuring out how to bring hope, for me, bringing hope to those of you, other athletes, employees. It's going to get better. Let's change. Let's reflect on the process. Let's pivot where we need to pivot, and let's reorganize our priorities so that we can actually get these wins and build our confidence and self-esteem. So that's what started my process, and now this is where I'm at in my journey, and that's why I'm making these videos, is because I'm really excited to bring what I've learned over the years to you, the viewer, fellow coaches, athletes, gym owners, whoever you might be, and show you that there is hope for the struggle that you're having. If you feel like you're about to burn out and you're like, I'm so done, don't give up yet. Just watch some of my videos and start learning the concepts that I'm teaching, because it really simplifies the process to a way that you can start going, okay, there is hope for this. And if you're plateauing, I don't know how to get these skills, Raleigh. Well, you may have not learned the process properly, and so you might be skipping steps. You might be rushing the timeline. You might be getting a little greedy for what you want, and you need to chill out a little bit. And you just may not have the accountability system there to say, hey, slow down. Like, it's okay. Like, hit these targets, and then that will come in time. And so, again, watch my videos and learn the concepts, because it's going to make the timeline more clear. So you don't have that anxiety of like, when are we going to get the skill? Oh no, competition season's coming, anxieties all in the ceiling. Like, no, like, we don't need to be doing that at all, right? We don't need to be getting to a state where we're frustrated and then that frustration's coming out on our students or our athletes. Like, it's not a healthy way to do life. But it's a very real thing that's happening, right? It's very real. When our voice is escalating and we're intensifying our voice, it's very real. And there's those instructors, you coaches out there, there's some of you that are dealing with that. And I have dealt with it. And I don't want to be that coach ever again. I don't ever want to raise my voice at an athlete. I don't ever want to raise the intensity in a way that's detrimental to their progress. And I've experienced that, and I've had to work through it, and I've had to learn a lot of it on my own through my own mistakes and failures, because I haven't had necessarily the mentorship in those seasons of my life. So that's why I'm making these videos. Subscribe to my channel if you can to support me. I'm trying to get the word out there that there is hope for us, that we do not need to burn out. We do not need to raise the intensity, raise our voice. We do not need to have this anxiety that shows up that says, I don't know when I'm going to see my success. It's like, no, we can start hitting clear targets and goals if we just understand the process and the story. And the story of gymnastics is what I'm calling the gymnastics framework, and that's basically the whole picture, the big picture of all of gymnastics. If you were to zoom out, it's like there's this skyscraper building with all these rooms and doors and windows and structure that's built, these elevators, right? The gymnastics framework is like the entire story of gymnastics, start to finish. And so you'll start picking up on those little key points if you start watching my videos. And I'd love to get to know you, so leave comments, like, share my videos, reach out to me however you can, and let's start a conversation. Let's keep the conversation going. And let's make sure that you understand that there's hope for your success and your goals too, and especially for your athletes and your students, that you are essentially the facilitator. You're the person who holds the keys, right, to their opportunity. And so if you're losing hope, then you're not going to be presenting those opportunities for your students and athletes to actually help them reach their goals. And so it's so key that you don't lose hope, because you are the person who's actually, if you're the coach or the business owner, you're the person who has the control over the opportunity to present to the athletes. And if you understand the power behind opportunity, I mean, the sky's the limit. You can do so much more. And so that's why I'm making these videos, and this is the so much more that I'm doing, is I'm presenting the information that I've learned over the years, and in hopes that maybe you will take that information and you go apply it to your coach and you go, wow, Raleigh, that really works. I see the difference, and then your success is through the roof. So that's what I'm doing, and I look forward to chatting with you or keeping you going on this journey.